Bad behavior. Bad behavior in affordable housing apartments. Bad behavior while you're an affordable housing manager. Specifically, bad behavior that is done to you. We all know what we're talking about. We've all experienced bad behavior from coworkers, from supervisors. In this case, it would be from tenants. And I think one of the most common things that I'm finding myself when I talk about this is that people are asking themselves, don't these games end in high school? Don't these games end in school? Why are people still acting like this? Well, guess what? That's how people are. People are gonna act like this, and you need to be tougher than that and smarter than that and outsmart these people. I'm gonna show you how. Doesn't end in high school. None of this shit ends in high school. Did it end in high school? And not really, did it? It didn't really end in high school, did it? It carried over. And if you think that, people are just naturally gonna be good after college, after school or something, you're sadly mistaken, okay? There is evil in this world, and it will find you, and you have to be ready, willing, and able to fight it, to fight evil, and to poke that fucker in the eye. Bad behavior, okay? Bad behavior. So, in terms of affordable housing, being an affordable housing manager, you're gonna have residents that are on excellent behavior, you're gonna have residents who made a mistake, and you have residents who just have all out bad behavior. And you're working in affordable housing, you're working in the projects. A lot of these people, they can't go anywhere else. They've already been kicked out of they've been kicked out of all the places that you're gonna get kicked out of, and now they're here, okay? So they have bad behavior. It could be as little as housekeeping, it could be hoarding, it could be starting fires, it could be starting arguments, fights, being hostile, doing illegal things. You don't know what kind of bad behavior. It's bad behavior, okay? And the reason this is bad is because it also reflects on you as a manager. If you're allowing these things to happen, what does that say about you as an affordable housing manager? Remember, you're leading the community. You are a community manager. You are leading the community. You have to set the example, okay? You can't let this bad behavior go on. Don't get so authoritarian. Don't think that you're like the police or the security guard and you have to stop everything. But there's a specific way to go about every situation. Every situation you're gonna encounter is nothing new. All this shit is nothing new, okay? They've had people managing affordable housing for years, decades, okay? Affordable housing is not new, okay? All these things that you'll see, all these things are things that someone else has dealt with, okay? You got big shoes to fill in this job and when it comes to this job. Bad behavior could be that they harass you. What is harassment? They try to yell at you, intimidate you, force you to do something, force you to think a certain way. That could be harassment. I had some tenants who were like that. I think what it is too is that I had a specific tenant that just did not like the idea that he was a tenant, and that's not my fault. That's not your fault either, okay? If they don't like being a tenant, then they need to go somewhere else and stop being a tenant. And now what you're saying, oh, not everybody can. Well, if you can, then it's not my problem, honestly, okay? This guy, he didn't like being a tenant, and he didn't like having to share his space with someone else, okay? I'll give him some credit. The person he had to share space with was not as organized and not as clean. Understandable. Not everybody's gonna be like you. And I talked about this in another video too. Not everybody's gonna be like you. Not everybody grew up the same way as you. What you think is easy and oh duh is not the same thing for everybody else. So anyways, he would get so frustrated and then he'll call me and he'll just yell into the phone. He'll scream into the phone. I paid my rent. I'm a hardworking professional. And, there's only so much I can do, honestly. If it's a housekeeping issue, you send notices to the tenants, you send lease violations, but a tenant, if it's somebody leaving a dish in the sink, because they finished eating, they put it in the sink, and I get back to it later. That's not really a housekeeping issue. Housekeeping issue is when there's like bugs and pests, and it starts to affect the other tenants, and then you have to pay for house control or pay for pest control. Okay, that's a housekeeping issue because now it's coming out of your pocket, and now you can provide documentation saying that, look, this person made a complaint because they got roaches in their room. I had to pay this much for the pest control. We took pictures. We noticed that there was housekeeping issue. You're to blame. Boom. That's a lot better than calling the person at 10 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night just because this guy's complaining, telling them like, hey, you know that dish that you just left 5 minutes ago in the sink? Go pick it up. Like, what the fuck, right? There's a way to do things. There's a professional way to do things. And there's a way to do things where you're just being pushed over by somebody. Another bad behavior is the intimidation. There are some tenants who will try to intimidate the other tenants. They think that if they intimidate everybody else will just leave and they'll magically just live by themselves. That, oh, hey, I can't find any other tenants. I guess you're gonna live by yourself and still pay just normal rent. They're not thinking. So, and you need to watch out for that too. That you need to document. When people get aggressive and stuff, that's domestic violence. Okay, and domestic violence is very serious and is very frowned upon, and they will come out. If you call the police and tell them that there's some fighting going on inside the domicile, they will come out in a heartbeat. Okay, because they take it very seriously. The police is what I mean. So there's that bad behavior. Another one is over occupancy. Bringing people onto the property. Some people, they rent out and then they bring 10, 20 people, that are not on the lease. And that's not fair to the other tenants because the other tenants are paying to live in that room or paying to live in that apartment. They're occupying it correctly. And by correctly, I mean there are occupancy guidelines. If you look up on your county's website what the occupancy guideline is, they could tell you per bedroom, this is how many people should be there. And it's just a sanitation, health thing, okay? It's occupancy guidelines. Anyways, some people are paying and they're living within those guidelines. Someone else is paying the same amount and they're bringing twice as many people. That's not fair. And they're thinking, oh, look, we're smarter. We're paying this much and look how many people we could get in our apartment. That's not fair to everybody else, honestly. And you need to put a stop to that as well. You need to write letters. You need to post a letter on the door. You need to tell them, remind them that there is occupancy guidelines that you didn't invent. I didn't invent these occupancy guidelines. These are posted by the county. So you just have a screenshot. Just print out a screenshot of the county thing. Be like, look, this is the occupancy guideline. You have this many people. We've noticed it on 3 separate occasions. That's the thing too, is that I probably should have touched on that in the beginning of the video, that a lot of these things, you can't react to them. When you see them happening, don't react. Just watch, observe. You've been a security guard before, you know what I'm talking about. Observe and report. What's the most important function of the security guard? Observe and report. Observe and report, document it, don't react to it. Because if it happens once, it'll probably happen again and you can get a paper trail and you're a lot stronger. Your case is way stronger when you have that paper trail. The final one I want to talk about is something that happened to me. So all these things have happened to me, but this one is something else that happened to me, and that's where you had some violent tenants. You have violent tenants that will break into the apartment and they will literally squat in the apartment. They will change their addresses on everything that they have like this in a heartbeat to make it match that apartment that they're squatting in, pretending like they live there. They will act like they don't know what the hell is going on. And if you call the police, they'll present some phony paperwork and say that, oh, look, no, we moved in on this day. He gave us permission. And if you push it too far, they will send people after you. That's what happened to me. I have this whole big story about that. I was gonna go into it, but I don't think I got time right now. Maybe I'll go into it another day. But during a confrontation with the individuals from Unit 10 who had harassed the tenant above, the manager was coerced and threatened to rescind the lease violation. Despite standing his ground, the situation escalated when the police were called. So, the thing that helped me out there mostly was documenting what had happened and write it down, everything, so my dates and my times added up. But like I said, you have to be on top of it. You have to be a little bit aggressive with these sorts of things. You know, even if that means documenting it, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes when you see something, it's hard to stop and document it right away because the other person will know that you saw them. And that's what I mean about being a little bit aggressive, is that you have to stand up for your people and you have to stand up for your community because they're all watching you to do the right thing. And you have to do the right thing. What's the definition of courage? Do the right thing, even when it's hard.